evening and welcome to another edition of The Summit, a show where we get to discuss impactful and pressing issues that are focusing on this country, Rwanda, and on the global scene. I am your host, Martina Avera, once again. Now, tonight we're going to be shining a spotlight on South-South and Triangular Cooperation, which is a growing model and international collaboration rooted in solidarity, mutual benefit, and shared mutual development experiences amongst countries of the global south, often supported by northern partners. But what does this really mean for Rwanda? How is Rwanda actively engaging in this framework? And what role do institutions like Rwanda Corporation, as well as higher learning institutions, play in advancing this agenda? And that is what we're going to be discussing tonight, so stay tuned. Now, helping me unpack this very impactful and timely conversation is none other than Dr. Willy Mugenzi, who is the Chief Operations Officer at Rwanda Corporation. You're welcome.
Thank you.
Thank you for being here. And last but not least, Dr. Emmanuel Mushimimana, who is a specialist in governance and development in the areas of political science at University of Rwanda. Thank you for being here.
Thank you very much, too.
Yes, so like I introduced, our topic today is South-South and Triangular Cooperation in Rwanda, but diving into the advancement in terms of development through shared knowledge. Now, let's start off with you, Dr. Willy. One might ask, can you be able to help us understand in depth what South-South and Triangular Cooperation is in terms of practical terms, and why it's particularly relevant for Rwanda today?
Thank you, Abera. As I said, I work as Chief Operations Officer for Rwanda Corporation. Rwanda Corporation is a state-owned enterprise of the government of Rwanda, working under the Ministry of Foreign Affairs because of cooperation, and then under MINCOFIN because of the enterprise. So coming back to the concept of South-South and Triangular Cooperation, South-South cooperation means developing countries sharing resources, expertise, knowledge, and opportunities for mutually benefiting development solutions. So it's not an emerging concept. It has been existing for many years. Right from the end of World War II, 1946, there was a first meeting that happened in Indonesia, and developing countries came together and said, there are these big countries in global north. At times, who may dictate terms to us? How do we come together and form a coalition called South-South countries in global south, or South cooperation, to share resources, expertise, knowledge, so that they can possibly gain voice and power to counteract countries from global south, global north. Then triangular cooperation means two countries might come together, or countries from global south might come together for mutual benefits. Then there is a development partner, formerly called donors, coming together, either World Bank, IMF, UNDP, and say, Rwanda and this country, you are agreeing to work together to achieve mutually beneficial solutions or development benefits. We are coming in to finance this process, and that in that it becomes triangular cooperation. So it has been on in Rwanda. In practical terms, there is an institution called Rwanda Corporation, as I said earlier, working under the Ministry of Foreign Affairs and International Cooperation because of cooperation, and then MINCOFIN because of enterprise. It was started in 2018. It has been in operation for now about 6 years. It's a small organization, a lean organization with a great mission, and our mission is to become a hub for knowledge sharing to achieve sustainable development. And we have projects in different countries, which I could possibly come back to. We have projects, we have study visits, we undertake trainings. We conceptualize, implement, monitor, and evaluate projects in different countries. We do have provide advisory to governments in Africa and beyond. And in practical terms, we have gotten over 7,662 delegates coming to Rwanda to benchmark on certain things we've done better since 1994 genocide committed against Tutsi.
In your opinion, since its inception here, specifically in Rwanda in 2018, in terms of knowledge sharing to be able to advance development, can you say that Rwanda as a nation have adapted to this model in terms of utilizing this aspect and using it for mutual benefit?
Yes, if you look at Rwanda Constitution revised in 2015, Article 11, it provides for Rwandans choosing to find solutions for their development challenges by capitalizing on culture. If you look at pillar number 3 of the foreign policy of Rwanda, it underpins using South-South cooperation and global South cooperation to achieve Rwanda's development objectives. So, indeed, Rwanda has pursued this approach to reach out to different countries, and also countries in global South reaching out to Rwanda to benefit on certain things that we've been able to do better. If you look at Rwanda in historical terms, in 1995, the level of poverty in this country was around 77. Today, we are talking about 38 reduction poverty levels. In 95, the life expectancy in this country, if you may allow me to take you some of these facts, the life expectancy in Rwanda, 97.6 was around 26 years. So literally people are not living because of genocide and post-genocide trauma. Today we are talking about 38 life expectancy. Medical care or universal medical insurance standing at 97.3%. All these are major milestones in terms of development. Countries are willing to come and learn from Rwanda. How have you been able to achieve these milestones? And they've come in good number. We've been there to serve them as an institution, and there is a commitment to do even better so that these countries coming to Rwanda to learn from us, but also learn from them, continue to come in. And there are tangible benefits from pursuing this approach called South-South and Triangular Cooperation.
Yeah, thank you very much for that brief understanding as well as providing the statistics. Over to you, Dr. Emmanuel. From an academic standpoint, could you also define South-South and Triangular Cooperation and why it is increasingly being adopted in a global development discourse?
Thank you very much. Yeah, that's a very nice question to know the difference between South-South cooperation and North-South cooperation. These are different concepts, but in order to understand one, we have to delve into the other. So if I talk about South-South cooperation, it is a cooperation between one developing nation to another developing nation. Which means, what is a developing nation then? A developing nation is a nation which is not yet at the level of what we call development in blank. So development has been a questionable term also, because it has a hegemonic stand on culture. So the way people live, the way people behave determines development. But in practice, development, when we are talking about development this time, we are at least talking the countries which have GDP per capita above at least 30,000 US dollars per year, which is a little bit clear. So the life standard for a person who have money, who have infrastructure, good road, water, electricity at home, having well-being based on both material and non-material, freedom, and here we are talking about cultural development and security at home and even around him. This is what we call development, where a person feels safe, where a person feel having a well-being, I mean, in terms of health, where a person can go to the hospital and get better treatments, and can go to the pharmacy and be able to pay for medicine. This is development. What you call development is that. But development itself has been questionable because the recent scholars, for instance, Latin American scholars and some European scholars also has been criticizing that people have to adopt Western culture and life to be developed, which is not true. I have to build a student house, 1 floor, 2nd floor, 3rd floor, but if I build just a small house but well equipped in terms of Rwandan culture, that is enough. We call it also development. So this is a concept which is called post-developmentalism. Yeah, but when we talk about South cooperation, we are talking about nations that are not considered as Western countries, but considered in developing arena, like Rwanda, like Namibia, like Indonesia. You mentioned about it, Dr. Willy. Like any other country, like for instance Uruguay, or for instance other Latin American country, Bolivia, for instance. Yeah. So if Rwanda cooperates with, for instance, Korea, South Korea, we consider that like South cooperation. Yes. And if Rwanda cooperates with Zimbabwe, for instance, on how to grow maize, for instance, technology, or to bring technology lecturers to Rwanda, that's South cooperation. It becomes a triangular cooperation when there is involved another country which is a developed country. For instance, like let's take example of France, or for instance Belgium, or for instance USA. We consider them as developed countries because their GDP is higher. Yeah. So if USA is involved in the cooperation of Rwanda and China, that is a triangular, because China is still considered as developing nation globally. So we call it a triangular cooperation. If, for instance, Italy or Germany is involved with Rwanda cooperation with South Korea, this is a triangular cooperation. How did it come? It came because some southern countries, developing nations, don't have same level of best practices. As Dr. Willy was mentioning, we have some best practices, for instance, from Mutuelle de Santé. Mostly every Rwandan is covered by health insurance. It is not the case for many countries. Yes. But some countries are coming to learn from our insurance scheme, for instance. Later on, they will learn about Umuganda, about VUP, about Giringa. It can happen also. How can you disseminate different development opportunities in agriculture, for instance, from household level? Yeah? So if this happens, then we call it a triangular cooperation. Then Germany can give money, for instance, to Rwanda, to implement the policy, for instance, in Namibia. Okay. That is a triangular cooperation. Some knowledge and skills are involved, but also finance from developed country involved, but also best practice involved from developing nation. Actually, in short, this is a South-South cooperation and a triangular cooperation. It has been adopted globally as a very good mechanism, a practical one and horizontal, to help countries to get rid of difficulties, as mentioned in the previous 8 modules.
Which seems to be working. Thank you for that. Yes. Back to you, Dr. Willy. In terms of impact and role, especially here in Rwanda, what has been the impact of South-South cooperation in Rwanda so far? We spoke about it in the health sector in terms of Mutuelle de Santé and other countries coming to learn from the health scheme. But in particular, in areas such as governance, agriculture, or digital transformation. What has been the actual impact or the role since Rwanda started applying it?
There are multiple impacts one can measure, intangible and tangible ones. As I said, over 70 countries have come to benchmark on Rwanda's transformation journey. 70 countries, if you look at the map of Africa, around 54 countries. So if you put 70 countries in the map of Africa, it is full. That comes with benefits. The image of Rwanda has shown, has gone beyond Rwandan border. And many people now know Rwanda, how Rwanda has been able to transform itself from the horrific experience of 1994 genocide against Tutsis. That's number one, in terms of image building. A country lies on its narrative and on its image plus resources, people and other natural resources. The other point I wish to enumerate as a major impact is 7,662 delegates, I mean people, have come to Rwanda to learn about Gacaca, to learn about Mutuelle de Santé, to learn about Rwanda's transformation journey. We are talking about 50% of our public services being offered digitally through Irembo. ID cards, traffic offenses, judicial services, death certificate, marriage certificate, to mention but a few. So countries that have come to benchmark on Rwanda, 70 countries, 7,662 delegates, people coming, and once they come, they spend money. They benchmark on things, how we do things. They get to learn how we fight corruption, being number one in East Africa, number 3 in Africa, and ranking among the top globally. Gender equality. So, in terms of governance, countries like Southern African countries, Lesotho, have come to Rwanda to ask, how do you manage to streamline governance, accountability? I think I would come back to 3 strategic choices Rwandans have made. Accountability being number one, thinking big, and being united. Talking about unity after 1994 genocide, some countries cannot fathom how Rwandans have been able to unite and reconcile after the horrific experience of 1994 genocide. Talking about health, Mutuelle de Santé, 97.3% of Rwandans have medical care, have medical insurance. Some countries in Europe, even developed countries, as you mentioned, are still struggling with providing medical insurance to their citizens. But we are talking about 97.3% of Rwandans getting medical insurance. This is exceptional, I would say, and that's an area. Imagine someone who is a mother wanting to deliver, and she goes to King Faisal to deliver from there, and she pays 3 cents. 3 cents, I would say, she pays not more than $50 to deliver. And to some countries, they cannot comprehend how that can happen. It happens because Rwandans have medical insurance. To break that story down to a level that an ordinary Rwandan would understand, we usually tell people who come to undertake study visits in Rwanda and tell them that if for me to give work to a housemaid or a nun, before we talk about payment or terms of engagement, we ask them, do you have medical care, Mutuelle de Santé? If not, I think we may not do business together. The reason is, in Africa, over $3 trillion is lost to Europe and developed countries in terms of medical attention, getting medical attention. $3 trillion lost. What does that mean? There is a cross correlation between disease burdens and productivity. The housemaid I mentioned earlier, whom I asked whether she has medical insurance, might not be productive for me because most of the time she might get sick from malaria or any other disease, and she will be sick not producing for me. But if she has Mutuelle de Santé, which costs less than 3 cents, she will be able to work, feed her family, work for me. I also concentrate on Rwanda cooperation work. So those are some of the things The other thing is that we export digital projects to different countries. We've exported EFMS. Rwanda has been able to emerge strongly in terms of public finance management. So we export digital projects to Eswatini, EFMS to be specific. We've exported Umucho to a country like Guinea. We've exported e-procurement, which is Umucho to Guinea, EFMS in Chad, ICMS means integrated case management system to Jamaica. We've given IBM to Kenya. We are also in discussion with the government of Lesotho, the Kingdom of Lesotho, to export certain good practice in areas of governance. So there are about 5 projects we've exported to different countries under the framework of South-South and Triangular Cooperation.
Yeah.
And many other benefits.
Thank you for sharing that. And briefly also, you mentioned the immaculate people not being able to comprehend how Rwanda has been able to do so well in terms of growth, especially through after the atrocities that took place 31 years ago, and doing so well in so many areas, health, governance, and whatnot. And these countries, you gave a statistic, 7,662 coming to Rwanda to learn, and understanding and also trying to comprehend that framework and how Rwanda continues to beat the odds. Do they actually go back to their countries and start implementing? Is there a way that that is followed up so that you can see that it's not only in theory that yes, they're coming, but also putting it into practical sense and also implementing what they have learned? Absolutely,
yes. Let me give an example of Ghana. Ghana has been coming to Rwanda to share their good practice. Actually, we qualify it as good practice, not best practice. Best practice means you've reached. There's no any other point to cover. Yeah. But good practice means there's some stuff you have to learn. So Ghana has been able to come to Rwanda. We've shared a lot in terms of governance and social protection. They are implementing Umuganda. Wow. There are many other countries that are implementing digital projects. We have been able to show them that these projects have worked for Rwanda. They could possibly work for you. They invite us, we do an assessment. From assessment, we take the project, we implement them together. That's one particular case. ICMS. ICMS is likely to go to Jamaica. Wow. And going to Jamaica means Rwanda is going to share. And ICMS has been able to win an Africa-wide award. So countries come and take some good practice from Rwanda and implement them. I give an example of EFMS. EFMS is a very good system implemented by the government of Rwanda through Mincofin. As we speak today, EFMS is being implemented in Eswatini. Rwandan team, we call them Rwandan team, are in Eswatini. They are taken by Rwanda Corporation. They are implementing the projects. It's started to pick up. The government is so excited. We are also excited that we are working with our sisters in Eswatini to implement such a very good project that's going to be very transformative. I would give another example of EBM in Kenya. Through a cooperation with Kenya, EBM is being implemented in Kenya. I'll give an example, e-procurement in Guinea, Conakry, is being implemented. So there are many projects we've been able to take to different countries. And if you could know how much they come back and say, thank you, Rwanda. Thank you, Rwanda, for investing in digital transformation. Thank you, Rwanda, for being transformative in social protection. Thank you, Rwanda. But we also reciprocate and say, thank you for trusting us by coming to undertake your study visit in Rwanda.
It's good to hear that the good practices are working. Back to you, Dr. Emmanuel. In terms of the role of higher learning institutions, how are these institutions, for example, University of Rwanda, currently engaging in knowledge sharing, research partnerships, or even exchange programs within the South-South framework?
Yes, of course there is different frameworks of knowledge sharing. We have like lecturer going to other universities through cooperation, South-South cooperation, from learning, especially from East Africa. There are some lecturers from Kenya who come to Rwanda, Rwandan lecturers going to other East African countries sometime, but it is still not so high, but there is too many ways of making progress. But the knowledge sharing happens in different ways. For instance, in terms of agriculture, there are cooperation, of course, between Rwanda and other countries, and involving University of Rwanda in terms of sharing knowledge in agriculture, in science and technology. In many ways, I think the publication level of University of Rwanda lecturers has increased tremendously, and the University of Rwanda is one of highly ranked universities in Africa. You have seen the recent report, meaning that, of course, there is many ways of knowledge sharing. But remember that after the genocide against Tutsis, of course, we received many lecturers from South-South cooperation. We received many lecturers from India, we received many lecturers from Cuba, we received many lecturers from Kenya, Uganda, and so on and so forth. Of course, even if we say other North-South cooperation, we received the lecturers from Canada, USA, Europe. A number of medical doctors from European countries came to support Rwanda and teaching and other. So this time now, Rwanda is paying back. We are paying back, sending also lecturers and also sending other knowledge produced here to other countries. But we still have, of course, some gaps. We should go further. And that is what I think Dr. Willie and the team of experts that focus on this should start thinking on. Like we have other institutions like COICA, JICA, and whatever. Rwanda also should start thinking on going abroad, helping. Because we have been helping Mozambique, we have been helping in South Sudan, and anywhere else also, but we don't have yet the institution focused on doing that like those other institutions. Thanks to the government to have established the cooperative institution, cooperation institution, of course, sorry. But we need to have more to give more. I mean, we are now at the level of giving back because we received a lot. It's time to give back too. Yeah, but so far the University of Rwanda is doing well in terms of South-South cooperation. Yeah. Especially with exchange with South-South universities. Yes.
Yeah, we're going to come back to you later in terms of what more needs to be done. But back to you, Dr. Willie. He spoke about the gratitude of having institutions such as Rwanda Corporation. But for those who may not be familiar with its mission and services, what are some of the core services and objectives of Rwanda Corporation here in the country?
The overall mission of Rwanda Corporation is to act as a hub for learning and sharing knowledge through South-South Central cooperation with state and non-state actors in Global South and beyond. And some of the services that really exemplify why we exist as an institution, one of them is study visit and training. Study visit means countries coming to Rwanda, as I said earlier, around 7,662 coming to Rwanda. And in organizing this study visit, the country expresses interest that want to come and undertake a study visit to benchmark on Rwanda's social protection policy or practice. Then we organize a program, what we call customer-centric program. For our case, countries are customers because there is a business component to it. Then after that, we design the program. They come, we give them a summary, what we call a welcome note. a summer of Rwanda, where Rwanda was in 1994, then the emergency response from 1994 up to 2000, then the phase of transformation. Then after they all come north, we take them to, we invite experts. Experts come to Rwanda Corporation, or they go to those sites and immerse themselves deeply into knowledge sharing. And that is now study visits, which ends with a wrap-up. A wrap-up is just a debriefing session with the countries. So the second service we offer is training. We've offered trainings to Liberia in terms of ICMS, how technology has helped deliver judicial service in Rwanda, and the countries come to examine how Rwanda has been able to really work on justice service delivery given our past. Been able to provide training to Zimbabwe on e-procurement, our Umucho, our famous Umucho, and countries come and say, please take us through it. The infamous I mentioned earlier in Eswatini, this year we have rolled out a training on infamous. Giving a product, a digital product, is not an end in itself. You have to undertake a training so that people embrace, adopt the technology, find it as a response to an existing program, so that they don't really resist the technology, because there are those ones who might see technology as a threat rather than an opportunity or a resource. So we do trainings, and our trainings are very unique. There is the boardroom training, there is also going to the field. You interact with experts in the boardroom, but you go and visualize what they've been discussing in the field or sites. Then the other service we offer is policy advisory. And in a policy advisory, we do research. Research informs advisory we give to state and non-state actors in Africa and beyond. The reason as to why research informs our advisory is that we don't become prescriptive. We become suggestive to countries. We don't want to patronize. We want to partner with countries. And Rwanda has made that deliberate decision to partner with countries in responding to emerging or existing development challenges, because we've learned from history. And in advising state and non-state actors, it involves civil society organizations, private sector, and state actors. State actors, I mean government and state-owned enterprises. The other service we deliver, as I said, is project management services. Project management services starts with expression of interest, which could come from study visit also. Study visit, countries come to undertake study visit on ICMS. Then after unpacking it, they say, we need it. Can you get it for us? So the country expresses interest. After expression of interest, we receive it, we work on it, and then we ask the country, can we sign an MOU? Then after the MOU, we do an assessment. The reason as to why we do an assessment is to establish a country's readiness for us. And we establish where there are gaps and a good practice to build on. The reason as to why we establish gaps is to ensure that we become surely responsive to the existing challenges. Then we come up with the recommendations, then we roll out the project. From rolling out the project, I mean implementation, and after the implementation, we do project monitoring missions to find out whether our team is delivering as per the terms of reference. Then we do evaluation of what we call project completion reports. That is now project management services. We do research, as I said. Research to establish the current situation and the desirable situation we want for that country. But we don't do it single-handedly. We work with countries. I want to emphasize this. Rwanda has learned from history that partnership produces results. So we don't handhold the country. We work with countries. We partner with countries. Of course, there are temptations when a country say, please handhold us. We want to solve this problem. And we have been clear that we are not going to handhold any country. Every country is a country, because as you said, there's the respect of sovereignty of countries, respecting their culture. and we work with them so that what we provide becomes citizen-driven and becomes sustainable. We want, after some time, when we are gone, they say, ICMS has worked for us, citizens have embraced it, and it is here to stay. I mean sustainability. Then the other service we provide is, I mentioned study visit, research, advisory, and project management. I think I can stop there.
Yeah, it's okay. In terms of project management, how long does it usually take from when a country approaches you in terms of asking for you to advise or to partner with them in a certain framework or certain manner to the implementation phase, to creating what is suitable for that country, or does it vary? Is there like a specific?
Absolutely, you got it right. It depends on a country. Some countries at the advanced stage, others are not. So there is no particular size that fits all.
Yeah.
Every country is unique in its own way. You will find that a country is interested in IFMS. And you find that in terms of, we're talking about three elements: people, technology, and the processes. You will find a country has a legal framework for such a technology, let me say IFMS, but might not have the people doesn't have a team of experts, a pool of experts to embrace the technology. So you do research to establish gaps, to establish good practices to build on in those three areas, and beyond, even including culture. So once you do research, that's when you get to know that this project can take 2 years, 3 years, 4 years, or 6 years. So let me give an example of Irembo. Irembo is a mega project. Some people usually sit and say, oh, Irembo, but it's a major, major project. So if you took Irembo in a country X, which doesn't possibly have technology, but it has people who are willing for it, who are interested in it, you have to say technology is not there, people have interest in Irembo, and the legal reforms. You have to do X, Y, Z, the legal reforms, come up with the laws, policy frameworks, and also change management. People have to embrace this Irembo. So, in short, I would say that it varies. You cannot say what worked in Guinea will work in terms of periodicity, will be the same period for Eswatini. And Eswatini might not be the same period like Jamaica. So, it varies from one country to another. There is no uniformity. Okay. Yeah.
Thank you for that. Back to you, Dr. Emmanuel. You did speak about some of the things that need to be done, especially for higher learning institutions to be able to incorporate the South-South and triangular cooperation in these studies, but what more can be done to equip students and faculty with the tools and understanding needed to participate meaningfully in South-South collaboration?
The first thing that the higher learning institutions in Rwanda and in the developing nations have to teach to students is first of all to let them know that they have to learn for the betterment of their society. So that is how even more advanced developing nations like India or China did. They taught their students that they have to solve problems at home. It's a shame that with engineers we have now, we didn't have yet, for instance, a juice processing machine of banana, while our ancestors and even recent parents used their legs and hands and to produce juice from banana. So we can wonder what technology for if it doesn't serve our society. That is the mindset change first. Because, for instance, in USA they don't have bananas, so they don't want they don't have to adopt a machine for us. We don't have to wait them to bring a machine for banana juice processing, because they don't have it. Like sorghum, something natural we have. We have to teach our students to solve problems that our society encounters for better transformation. That is the first thing. And we have to let them know also that development is not in the vacuum. You have to make it real. To make it real, what does this mean? If, for instance, it comes to ECD program, for instance, the early childhood education, which is good for Rwanda to take care of kids even when they are still in the womb of their mothers, up to 5 years or 6 years. That's a very good program that Rwanda adopted. But development is what in that aspect? It is using the available resources we have to transform and to make well-being of our people. We have a lot of things that we can use. We have food that we can process well, that we can mix up well, so that we have a healthy child, for instance. So because if you go to the most of the South countries, the problem, the danger they have is to transform resources into well-being. I will start with different aspects. If you go to Ethiopia, you will find people that they have been starving because they don't have enough food. Yet they have food, but they don't know how to increase it in quantity first. They will rely on wheat from abroad, and they will not even process what they have into tangible stuff. Yeah. If you go to, for instance, to further countries in the south, but for instance in Arab countries, for instance, they have a lot of arid season, but they know how to package their vegetables. How can we learn from them to do so in Rwanda? Because we have a lot of dodos, we have a lot of green, but we don't conserve them. If, for instance, we have a harvest of beans or tomatoes or cabbages, how do we package them that we don't have a problem of vegetables in the future? These are things, we call them basic, but necessary for development.
Yeah.
What do we learn from the others, and what are we teaching them? For instance, nowadays we have problems of water, irrigation. How do we learn from other countries? How do they manage their landscape, mountains, and still irrigate their crops easily? How do we learn from them? How do we learn from China? How do we learn from Korea? How do we learn from, and what do we take there too? Yeah, because it is a win-win situation. As Dr. Willie mentioned, also we give, but also we take. So what do we teach? Because most of the issue of transformation, nowadays it is good because Rwanda itself adopted, and the University of Rwanda specifically, adopted the module, the course called the Citizenship and Transformative Education. We are teaching, I'm glad I'm among the team that teach that course. We are teaching people how to live in society, how to respect the rights of others, women's rights, children's rights, how to transform our mindset so that we use those resources we have. Because Africa and many developing nations are very wealthy. We have a lot of things. We have gold, we have trees, we have wood, we have land, arable land. So if you take an example of a country like Mongolia, for instance. Mongolia is between China and Russia. But you cannot have a very green land that can feed a lot of cows. But in Rwanda, we can feed cows even with a small land. Yeah. So how do we transform this into a well-being situation? We have coffee in Rwanda, but I was amazed that many students of us don't take coffee. They have never drinking coffee for 1 year or 2 years, while their parents export coffee abroad. So this is a mindset challenge. Also, the southern people need to change their mind to transform. How can you export coffee, then your children have never taken coffee, never. Yeah, yeah. And Rwanda is learning a lot, but what basically we need to teach, as you asked, we need to teach our people, our students, ourselves, that the use of resources is paramount, either big resources or just other kind of resources, whether minerals or whatever, or bananas. I mean, these are resources that we have to utilize for transformation. Yes, because look at us. We have a lot of resources. In Rwanda, we shouldn't be poor. We shouldn't be even a developing nation. But we have lost a lot of time in ethnic division and other causes which are not priority for development. But we need to have priority for development, vocational training, engineering, how to transform lives. Even from scratch, how to take care of our body, how to wear shoes, how to clean ourselves, how to have a non-stressed mindset so that our youth can be integral and fit and smart for the challenge that the world is giving us.
I think mine is a point of rectification or correction. My land brother Emmanuel says Ethiopia, and he gave an element of hunger. I think Ethiopia is not a starving nation. It happened in 1980s, and because of what I would say negative reporting of Western media and also publication, Ethiopia tends to be in some books for bad news or for bad reasons that are way back in 1980s. But Ethiopia is a very unique country. It has a lot of strength, and as a matter of fact, any country would want to partner with Ethiopia in certain aspects. In agriculture, their irrigation system, water resource management models is way high. We're talking of Renaissance Dam. Renaissance Dam is going to become a blessing for Africa. And also in terms of human capital, Ethiopia has got way advanced human capital in some areas, be it in technology, be it in agriculture, specifically using water to irrigate farms. So I wanted to make that correction about perception people have about Ethiopia. It's just a historical issue that happened in the 1980s and unfortunately has stuck in people's minds.
Yeah, and we all know how negative media can really impact people's perception, especially one that, if it is not factual, can really cause a lot of harm. But more on a lighter note, many delegates and partners who visit Rwanda often share glowing feedback from basically their interactions or even experiences that they have had, the international guests who usually describe it. So how do our international guests usually describe their experience, especially when it comes to either the hospitality or how they view the city in terms of cleanliness, and especially as Rwanda Corporation, who has worked with all these delegates and see firsthand and get to hear what they think, and not only in terms of the frameworks that we have built for different sectors of the government or even in the country, but also their opinion on the little things. Can you describe some of that?
Well, that's a very good question, Abera. Rwanda has changed. In 2000, from 94 to 2000, if you're a Rwandan, the perception of you was extremely bad. You would either be a survivor, doesn't mean the survivors are bad, but it would be either you're a perpetrator or a survivor, you are struggling. But today, let me share with you some stories people share with us when they come back for debriefing or what we call a wrap-up session. First, how Rwandans are smiling. And that becomes a huge contrast given our history.
Yeah.
How can a nation smile after losing over 1 million people? So most delegates, when they come, they expect to find a gloomy, angry, annoyed Rwandan. But once they get to the airport, they get greeted by smiling faces. That tends to be a major blow for some delegates. Then the other thing is the consistent messaging between high-level policymakers and technocrats. In some countries, there's always contradiction between policymakers and technocrats. In Rwanda, once we get delegates and give them a summary of what Rwanda, where Rwanda has come, where it is headed, we let them go out. They engage with peers. If it is technology, they go to Minister of ICT. If it is justice, they go to Minister of Justice. And they tend to be amazed by the coherent message between policymakers and technocrats. And they come back and say, we are so surprised that Rwandans have a unified sense of purpose. Policymakers, technocrats, it's as if they are reading from the same script. And we ask them, what is your case? They tell you technocrats are resisting policymakers, or policymakers are not in tandem with the technocrats. Then the other thing that tends to surprise them is Kigali's cleanness. Just this week, we received a high-level delegate from Namibia, Deputy Chief Justice. And when we went to receive him at the airport, he said, you know, Windhoek, the capital city of Namibia, has been competing with Kigali city in terms of cleanness. This year, Kigali beats Namibia's capital. The coming year, Namibia's capital beats Kigali like that. Then it's a league of three, Namibia's capital, Kigali, and Casablanca. Now, in 1994, 1996, this town was littered with dead bodies, dirt all over. I was there, I was 15 then. But today, we used to have correction, how do we call it? Correction of waste, human waste and, I mean, how do you, the waste dumping sites.
Dumping sites, yeah.
You know where this Sehashka is? At the entrance of Sehashka in 1997, there was a big dumping site. Today, you can't find any. Even here at the Ministry of Education, there used to be one. You can't find one. So, one thing they tell us is that Kigali city is a city that is green and clean. And given our history, they hardly find it forthcoming. How did it get to this level? Some even ask, how much goes in cleaning this city? At what time do people clean? Because once you wake up in the morning, we find the city clean. When is it cleaned? Then the other thing is that they even tell us things we take for granted, like the orderliness of Rwandans. They tell us, when you are in Kigali, you go and you get to the zebra crossing, the people who are driving will be able to wait for people to cross. Elsewhere, you cannot find it. So, the last point that they tell us that we find so interesting is young people driving systems and institutions. They tell us, wherever we've been, we found CEOs who are very young, we found director generals who are very young. In our case, the senior citizens are the ones driving things. And that becomes really interesting and say, oh, welcome to Rwanda. Younger people have really taken over, and that is one of the reasons as to why you see things happening in Rwanda. And many other stories, issues of corruption. How do you manage to fight corruption? Elsewhere, it is declaration after declaration of good intent to fight corruption, but in practice you don't see things happening. There are many things they tell us about Rwanda. Reconciliation. How did you manage to reconcile after 1994 genocide? And genocide leaves the country terribly divided. How do you get to a level of getting to 97% of people uniting and reconciling after a horrific experience of genocide? And many other things.
Yeah. That's very true, especially in a span of only 31 years. So much has been done in terms of fixing our image, making Rwandans whole in general, rebuilding the city from different sectors, one sector at a time. So it's really an inspiring story, but also one that continues to keep people guessing, as well as wanting to figure out how we have done it. So it's more of an inspiration, but also one that encourages healthy competition, like you described, from Namibia and whatnot. So we are very fortunate to see a city that continues to grow in terms of that, but also a city that has citizens who are applying that norm that we have seen that the international delegates continue to rave about. So for that, we're grateful. And sadly, we have run out of time, but I would like to thank each one of you for taking part in this conversation, and as well as our viewers. We have heard tonight South-South and Triangular Cooperation is more than just a conversation. It's more of a strategic platform through which Rwanda can share, as well as learn and grow in solidarity with other nations, as well as making sure it's sustainable, from exporting homegrown solutions to learning from peers across Africa, Asia, Latin America. This model reaffirms that the development is not one direction, but it's collaborative, dynamic, as well as inclusive. So a special thank you once again to my guests, Dr. Willie Mugenzi, as well as Dr. Emmanuel, for sharing their insights, and as well as to you, our viewers, who constantly engage with us and tune in to hear the conversation. We're grateful. Thank you once again.
Thank you.
Thank you. Thank you for having us.
Yes, and up until next time, let's stay engaged, let's stay informed, and see you on to next week's episode. Good night.